Now, why is this interesting? I mean, need I say more? Why do you need to copy social security numbers? Crazy. Let's just get into it. So, a former senior Doge official, now at the Social Security Administration, copied the social security number of 300 million Americans, including names and birthdays. So this information was copied onto like a private cloud environment, still on the Social Security network, but they copied it onto a private cloud network where Doge employees or former Doge employees who have now been reassigned to the Social Security Administration can access all of this information. What do they need to access this information for? I don't know. Now, the whistleblower, he claims that this cloud lacks any real security, right? Like they just arbitrarily threw this up and was like, look, we need to see this information. So it's going up and it's going to be how it's going to be. But he's like, that's not good because we're talking about 300 million Americans whose now their information can simply just be accessed and stolen, right? So interesting. Now, what I found kind of funny is I'm reading this article. This was an NPR, and I'm reading the article, and they start with whistleblower, and then they just share his name. I was like, wait, I thought when you were a whistleblower, you didn't want to be identified, but hey, I think he was like, look, I'm gonna stand on what I got to say. I appreciate it, but I thought whistleblower was supposed to have some like anonymity to it where like you don't know who I am. I'm a little anonymous. I don't want to be exposed, but not in this guy. So in a written complaint, Charles Borges, he was the chief data officer. Now I say he was because I just doubt he still works there, but maybe he does. I don't know. Claims that copying this information is very high risk, and if the cloud server was breached, then it's a possibility that millions of Americans would need to be reissued a new social security number, which is very interesting. Because I don't know how you would reissue 300 million new social security numbers, especially if they have names and they have birthdays and all these different things. The way that people can hack your information, steal your identity, and go about doing all kind of craziness is just like so wild. So to me, reissuing a new number just isn't going to correct anything. You know what I mean? Like it's just not going to correct the problem in my eyes, but sure. And so it further goes on to say Borges' complaint is the latest in a slew of instances in which Doge and former officials are accused of disregarding privacy protections around sensitive personal information. Now I'm reading this because it kind of gets into, hold on, let me see. Yes, so it kind of gets into why they were doing it. Because my thing was still the why, right? Like, what do you need this information for? I don't understand. So, the Trump administration has moved aggressively to consolidate personal information about Americans held by various federal and state agencies, sometimes citing potential efficiency gains. Efforts to combat fraud and a desire to use the information for immigration enforcement, but other times offering inconsistent rationales. So to me, they don't got a reason. They don't have a reason. To me, if we're being honest, we're going to speak into conspiracy land. I believe they want this information so they can sell our information. They're not worried about security breaches. They're not worried about who's going to take what and do what with it. What they want to do, to me, it's data. It's data. They're getting the data to sell the data, to do what they need with the data, whoever they need to give the data to, whoever they can bargain and use this as little chips. They want to sell our data. They want to collect our data. They want to consolidate our data. The immigration part, I can believe that a little bit. Not gonna lie, I can believe that a little bit. What I do not believe is that you're doing this to consolidate personal information and for efficiency. Stop. Stop. You're looking to gather data about Americans. Okay. You don't care how you have to do it. That's why you split you broke up Doge and then we're like, oh, let's just throw them into these places. And now you're simply trying to what? Inconsistent rationales, because there is no rationale, babe. They're trying to collect our data. A lot of social media platforms, Google, Meta, some of them are not following in line. So they're like, look, we'll just infiltrate. That's my conspiracy brain. You guys let me know what your rationale is and or what you think the purpose of this is, okay? Because maybe I missed something. I did miss one part. Let me see if I wrote it down. Yes, I did. So, a coalition of labor and advocacy groups sued Doge to stop them from gaining access to American Social Security numbers. But in June of this year, the Supreme Court allowed Doge to review the what? Data. I'm telling you guys, it's all about data. They want the data. And then for the Supreme Court, that's also why it's important to know who you're voting for. Because the Supreme Court is like, nah, security issues, nah, identity fraud. Who cares? They need to go in and make sure they can consolidate this information so we have better efficiency, so we know who the illegal immigrants are. And their other reasons, don't totally understand, but they need to review the data. So let them review the data. I have issues with that. I have issues with it. I think we're not even seeing the lasting effects because we are really just getting into Trump's second presidency. So we're not really seeing how this thing is going to play out. Very nervous, okay? Very nervous. Pay attention to your stuff, okay? Pay attention to your mail that's coming in. Pay attention to your bank accounts and things, because shit is just not adding up to me. I don't know why these employees need to review our data, why they need to separate the data. Like, if you have the data on a platform or on some software that's highly secure, why do you need to move it to somewhere that's not? And then only allow the people who were, ex-Doge employees to access it. I don't know. It's very sketchy to me. It's very uncomfortable to me. I don't think it's right. I definitely think a lot of it needs to be addressed. But with a lot of these things, they kind of get swept under the rug. And I hate to say this because this is... Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Black and Classic Podcast.